This is Between the Lines. Today, we dissect the road less traveled.
Hello, welcome again to In Between the Lines. We are talking about the road less traveled and chapter 41, which is called The Miracle of Serendipity. And the doctor starts here talking about something that was really very popular amongst people in general in the world in the 70s, which is ESP or extrasensory perception. And I will be talking here only about what the doctor says in the book here, and he mentions some other, for example, for skepticals, we could find interesting an article that I will leave here, the name of the article and everything, that is mentioned also in the book, in case if you don't fully buy this concept of ESP, I know many people don't. The doctor says here that he believes if you read that article, you will start believing something different, maybe. So, having said that, here he talks about a research where, for example, there was a person sleeping in a room, and many other rooms away from that person was another one awakened, was awake and thinking or transmitting. He calls it quote unquote exactly like that, like from telepathy, or we don't know how. The other person was dreaming the things the person was transmitting to them. And this was repeated time after time, so we could say this research was scientific. It could be repeated, it could be routinely done through different sessions, and it was apparently proved that it was like that. So this is what we generally call the paranormal, or it's in the realm of the psychic phenomena, as the doctor calls it here too. And he has several examples where I will mention some of them because I think could be interesting to illustrate some concepts. Like, for example, the doctor said that once he was telling a friend, I had this dream last night about these 7 specific images, and they happen in a particular sequence. And when he was telling his friend about that, his friend was staying with him at home. He said, "Oh, 2 nights ago I had the exact same dream and the exact same images, and in that same particular order." And they found that it was it seemed to be like a coincidence, or it seemed to be at least something curious that had happened to them, but they could not find the real meaning of the dream. However, that made him think that this kind of phenomena that is sometimes under the umbrella of the principle of synchronicity has to do exactly with that, with timing and the unconscious, maybe the collective mind, or the collective unconscious, as we have been talking in previous chapters. And at least we could label it as curious, right? And there are some others. For example, the doctor was telling about a patient. He was driving in a particular complicated, or I wouldn't say complicated, but it was difficult road. So he thought, what will happen if somebody comes in this road that nobody passes, but it's really very curves, and there are a lot of curves and things around the lake. And so maybe another car could be thinking, nobody's coming through this road, I will go at full capacity or full velocity through this full speed. through this road, and he immediately hit the brakes, and he said, "I will stop." Somebody it was instinctual, or we could say more like intuition instead of instinct. So he decided to hit the brakes, and as soon as he did that, another car passed by, and he hadn't seen the car or anything because it was a curvy place. And he said, if I hadn't done that, I could have ended up at least in an accident. So these kind of things that we have also been mentioning in the previous chapters are like these things that we have to we could place under this principle of synchronicity. The things that happen that seem to be miraculous somehow, and at the same time we don't know exactly how they work. And there are other more that the doctor mentions here. I will not go into all of them. This chapter is kind of short. However, he mentions this could be related more to serendipity. And serendipity, what is it? According to the dictionary, it's a gift of finding valuable or agreeable things not sought for. It means that we are not looking for these things consciously, maybe, but they happen, and we can decide if we want to pay attention or not to them. And also, by mentioning that it is a gift, it could mean that some people have this gift and some others don't. Or at least if everyone has this gift of, we could replace it with intuition, for example. We can choose to pay attention or not pay attention to this serendipity, to this gift that we have as humans. And of course, we will keep on talking more about these topics, about this grace thing. And yes, the doctor mentions here mostly examples of life that we can consider, as we have already talked about, miraculous, or we could say we don't know how they happen, why they happen to some people, and they don't seem to, others don't seem to be touched by grace, as the doctor mentions here. And it could be that some people are more willing to pay attention or to be aware in order to recognize those kind of those serendipities, or be present enough to understand when synchronicity appears. So I leave this up to you to think about it and think if you agree with this topic or not. I know ESP is still nowadays considered a pseudoscience. I'm personally not fully on board with it, but I also cannot fully what is the word? Discard it completely. So it may be up to you, but here the doctor mentions that he is on board with these ideas, with the idea of serendipity, of the little miracles in life, and we might look at more in the next chapters. So see you next Sunday. Bye bye. This was our short one, so see you next Sunday. Bye bye.
Stay tuned for Ulua's next episode.